Just want to talk to you first. The first thing I want to do is I want to say that I know everybody out there is incredibly frustrated with the situation right now. I talk to people all the time, and I hear their stories, and I know how frustrating this can be. You go to the appointment for the consulate, and you expect to get approved, and you don't get approved, and instead you get told that you have to wait and wait and wait. And you try all these things to try to get the visa approved, and none of them work. It's so frustrating. And today I want to talk to you about and give you some insight into what's going on and what you can do to resolve it. And at the end of the webinar, I'm going to share some special resources with you and invite you to meet with me to discuss your case. So first of all, I want to talk about the typical situation. This is a situation that almost all my clients fit into. And if you have this situation, you'll know what I'm talking about. You apply for your spouse, or maybe you're going for a fiance visa, or it could be an H-1B visa. No matter what you're doing, the situation is the same. You go to the consulate after years, sorry about that. After years of waiting, you go to the consulate for the interview, or your loved one does. And when you get to the interview, what happens is the consulate hands you a sheet of paper that says 221G. Sometimes the piece of paper is yellow, sometimes it's blue, but whatever it is, it says 221G. And what you do then is you're not sure what that means. Maybe they ask you for more information about your relationship, or if you have an H-1B visa, it's something about your employer or something like this. And what they do is you send them the documents that they need, and then it remains stuck. It's stuck in what we call administrative processing. And you expect that it's going to get approved in a few weeks. And when it doesn't, you start getting a little worried about that. So then what happens is you try to contact the consulate, you email them, you contact them somehow, and then they don't get back to you. They send you some kind of an automated message. And then at that point, you contact a senator's office and you ask the senator for help, or a congressperson, you ask them to help you and communicate with the consulate. And they reach out to the consulate, and then that doesn't work either. And then at that point, you're really stuck and you don't know what to do. Weeks go by. You hope you can wait it out. Weeks go by, months go by, years go by, and you don't know what to do. And when you talk to other lawyers, many lawyers say that that this is just, there's nothing you can do and you have to wait it out. This happens for immigrant visas, like marriage-based visas or petitions for family members. And it also happens for fiance visas, H-1B visas, O-1 visas. And it also happens for asylum-based visas. So in other words, if you apply for if you have asylum, you can file an application called an I-730 for your relatives. Those typically get stuck. Now, a little bit more about me. My name is Josh Goldstein. I'm an immigration lawyer. I'm based in Los Angeles. I run a national immigration law firm. We have offices here in LA and also in Boston. So we work on cases from coast to coast, and I help people. My practice is exclusively focused right now on helping people whose visas are delayed, people whose cases are stuck. That's what I work on. And the reason that I do this, the reason I'm so passionate about it, is I think everyone deserves a decision within a reasonable period of time. That's what the law says. That's what the consulates are required to do. But the consulates aren't doing their job. And that's why I'm so passionate about working to help people. I want to bring families together. Nothing makes me happier than to know that I have played a role in someone's immigration journey that has brought them together with their fiance, with their parents, with their children, with their husbands or their wives. I love bringing people together, and I love to help people overcome immigration obstacles and hassles. I want to tell you about my first ever lawsuit against a US consulate. So this happened, I don't even remember, I think it was in 2006 2008, 2009. I had a client who was from El Salvador, and I worked on the case for a long time. It was a very complicated case, and I got the case approved, and I was so proud. I called his wife, and I said, we got this case approved. I scheduled him for an interview at the U.S. consulate in San Salvador. He went, I said, listen, you're probably going to be gone for about a year. He already knew that. That had to do with the details of the case. He had to apply for a waiver. He was going to be gone for a while. And I said, once we get this case approved, you'll be able to come back. So he stayed for about a year, and we got the case approved. Again, I called his wife. I congratulated her. I said, look, we did it. We won the case. You know, everybody in my office was jumping up and down. We were happy. We were celebrating. And I expected that he would get his visa and he would be able to come back right away. But he did not get his visa. The case was completely approved. Everything was approved, but he didn't get his visa. And I just couldn't understand why the consulate was not issuing the visa. I tried everything I could to get that visa issued. I called them. I used my lawyer resources. I know I have tools of communication to reach out to the consulate through legal channels, and nothing seemed to work. It was just stuck. And after about 6 months, his wife kept calling me and saying, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And I just didn't have a good answer for that. So after about 6 months, I got so frustrated that I said, you know what? I'm going to sue the consulate. I'm going to sue them. And so I asked a bunch of immigration lawyers. I said, well, you know, how do you sue the consulate to get a delayed visa issued? And none of the lawyers I talked to had any answers. Nobody had ever done it, or nobody that I talked to had ever done it. I couldn't get any straight answers. People said it wouldn't work. People said, oh, that, you know, the consulate doesn't have any, you know, you don't have any legal recourse to do that. A lawsuit's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So then I filed the lawsuit anyway, just because I figured, what do we have to lose? It's just stuck. It's not going anywhere. So I filed the lawsuit, and shortly after I filed the lawsuit, the consulate issued the visa. And right at that moment, a little light bulb came off, and I thought, that's interesting. I wonder if there are other people who have cases that are stuck just like that. Now, this was way back before Trump. And so back then, cases would only get stuck occasionally. It wasn't a systemic thing. Yeah, I mean, let's see here. So I want to talk also about the misleading messages that you get from the consulate, because that's part of the frustration, is that people are just confused. They don't know what to believe. So 221G, that's a section of the law. But when you see the word, when you see 221G, you may be wondering, what is that? Well, the answer is that 221G just means that you have a delay that happens after your interview. So if you go to the interview and they say 221G, that just means, doesn't mean you're denied. It means that they can't approve you yet, and they're going to put you on hold. Refused. Now, this is another words. If you see a message somewhere that says a consular officer has adjudicated your case and has refused to issue the visa, you may be thinking that your case is denied, but you would be wrong. The word refused is highly confusing because, you know, if I call up and ordered a pizza and I said, I want a pizza with double cheese and mushrooms, and they say, I refuse to take your order. Well, that means I'm not going to get a pizza, right? But in this case, refused just means temporarily put on hold. So refused and 221G both mean the same thing. They mean that you're going to be delayed. Okay, what does a denial look like? If the consulate says, we have sent your case back to the NVC or USCIS for possible revocation, that means that the consulate really has made a decision and they've denied the visa application and they sent it back to USCIS, and your case essentially is over at the consulate. USCIS will, or the NVC will contact you eventually, but this is a really kind of a worst case scenario. And in that case, I typically recommend that people refile their cases. That's sort of a subject for a different conversation, but that's what a denial looks like. If they say, we're sending your case back to USCIS for revocation, excuse me, that's a denial, okay? Administrative processing. What does that mean? Well, administrative processing is a fancy word that just means a delay that happens at the interview. So if you go to the interview, you're expecting an up or down decision. Instead, they say, we're going to put your visa into administrative processing. That just means it's delayed. So again, refused means delayed, 221G means delayed, and administrative processing means delayed. All these things just mean delayed. They dress them up in these fancy terms, but they all mean the same thing. Now, here's another message. Your visa has been canceled under 203G for failure to take action within 1 year. If you get this message, that's a very serious matter. However, if you get this message, it's very likely that that message is inaccurate or misleading. So I don't take that message too seriously. It's important, but I don't think you should freak out about it too much, okay? You should presume that this message is wrong. So what causes visa delays? That's a great question. And I've been involved with countless lawsuits against consulates for delaying visas. And I have I don't have any specific ideas or inside knowledge, but I'll give you a few theories. First of all, I think that this tends to happen to people who are Muslim or from majority Muslim countries. That is what my anecdotal experience has been. So in other words, not everybody who has a delayed visa is Muslim or from a Muslim country, but many are. And I think that that is unfair. It's discriminatory, but nevertheless, I think that's part of the story. The second thing I think is that we have Donald Trump as president, and his political persona is built around hatred for immigrants. So I think that the people that run the agencies share his anti-immigrant views, and they would be perfectly happy if no one got any more visas ever again. And I think that is, so I think, and they're also incompetent. So I think it's incompetence, anti-immigrant sentiment, anti-Muslim agenda. I think that's some combination. And I also think that they've made some decisions. They're using the coronavirus and the pandemic as an excuse not to process cases. For example, K-1 visas right now. I really don't think that they have any interest. Their agenda is not to process K-1 visas. So if you have a K-1 visa, you may be experiencing a huge delay either at the NVC or failure to get an interview. It is a mystery after all. They've never revealed why a case is put in administrative processing. And there are plenty of examples where someone gets approved very quickly and then a similar case gets put in 221G. Another thing to talk about is CARP. I forgot what that stands for. It's like controlled access or blah, blah, blah. It's an acronym, and it's a term that USCIS and the Department of Homeland Security have for a program that they implemented after 9/11 that it's highly illegal and discriminatory, but it's basically an anti-Muslim program. So if you are Muslim or from a Muslim country, CARP is used to do extensive background checks far and beyond anything that's authorized under the law, and that accounts for many of the delays. So I want to talk about a typical lawsuit and how they work and how it plays out. So once I'm hired, I file a lawsuit against the consulate. Once I file the lawsuit, we notify the defendants that they're being sued, and then they usually have 2 months to respond. And that starts sort of a deadline that gets them to take action. At the end of the 2 months, they have to respond. Sometimes they ask for more time. Usually in most of my cases, they ask for more time. And then it's the lawsuit that triggers the consulate to take action. So when they realize that they're being sued, they get their acts together and they take action and they resolve the case. So most of my cases are approved within 2 to 6 months. I have some cases that are approved in less than 2 months, and I have some cases that have taken more than 6 months to get approved. But most cases, people get a final decision within 2 to 6 months. Now, here's a question that I get from a lot of people. Do you have to go to court? Yes and no. I file a lawsuit in federal court. So I am going to court in the sense that I'm filing a lawsuit in court. But I don't physically go to court. It's filed online, and you're not going to have to go to court or do anything else like that if you file one of these lawsuits. Here's another question. Can you get money damages? Sometimes people who have visas that are delayed, these delayed visas have had profound impacts on people's lives. People have been unable to see their children. They've had to leave their jobs and travel to foreign countries to see their loved ones at great expense. This has caused them a lot of pain and suffering and hassles. Shouldn't you find a way to be able to sue so you can get money from the government? And the answer is, well, yes, you should be able to do that. But as a practical matter, I don't think that you're going to be able to do that. It's the goal of the lawsuit is to get a visa, and I don't think you're going to be able to get actual money damages. Can you get attorney fees? In all my lawsuits, I asked the court to award attorney fees, but as a practical matter, this is highly unusual. I've only had 2 cases where I've been able to get attorney fees awarded from the court, so it's unlikely. Again, the goal of the lawsuit is to get your visa, to resolve the delay, and I think that's the best you can realistically hope to accomplish. Timeline for the lawsuit. Yeah, we went over the 60-day deadline. Let's see. What other frequently asked questions can I get to? This is a big one. What about retaliation? If you sue the consulate, won't the consulate get mad at you and deny you anyway? This is something that almost everyone believes, and it's simply not true. There's no guarantee that if you file a lawsuit, you're going to get approved. But I can tell you that I've never had a case where the consulate has retaliated and gotten mad. In fact, you'll experience quite the opposite. Once they realize that they're being sued, they're going to treat you with like a VIP. They're going to resolve your case. I had one client, they called him on his cell phone. Can you imagine that? A consulate calling you on your cell phone to try to help you get your visa approved? That's not going to happen. They don't even respond to any of your messages. So they are not going to get mad at you, and they're not going to deny you automatically. There's no retaliation, none. How much do I charge to handle the lawsuits? So the court fee is $400. There's a filing fee of $97. And as far as the fee that I charge a flat fee. What I typically do is I ask people to make an appointment with me so I can discuss their case and see what it is. And I set a fixed fee for each case based on the details of the case. So if you're interested in hiring me, then I'll share a link with you where you can make an appointment and we can talk about your case. And if I can help you, once I learn more about your case, I can give you an estimate of what it would cost. What types of visas will this work for? I think that this will work for any visa that has been unreasonably delayed. I've used this for non-immigrant visas like an H-1B, an O-1, a J-1, an F-1. I have used it for asylum-based cases, the I-730. I've used it for IR1 and CR1, marriage-based cases, the K-1 visa, for sure the K-1 visa, and for all sorts of other visas just like that. I mean, really any visa. The only type of case that I don't work on are visitor visas. So if you applied for a visitor visa and the visitor visa application is stuck in administrative processing, I don't really work on that, on those sorts of cases. Also, if USCIS has denied the visa and has said, we're sending your case back for possible revocation, then I don't think that mandamus is the way to go. I think what you should do is file a new application, a new I-130, or file a new case. Try to work with an immigration lawyer. Give me a call if you need help. But I don't think you should try to sue to resolve the delay. And so I think you should, in general, I would be skeptical that mandamus would work for that. Okay, here's another question. You're located in Hawaii and I'm in California. Can you help? Yes, I can help you regardless of where you're located. I've had people hire me who are in New York, who are in Yemen, Mexico, Canada, all over the world, across the country. As long as your case relates to immigration, I can help you. And I'm very comfortable working on cases virtually and remotely. Which consulates have we successfully filed lawsuits against? I would say almost many consulates. They are too numerous to mention. Abu Dhabi, Cairo, Jerusalem, Islamabad, London, Taiwan, uh, Montreal, San Salvador, Juarez, Mexico. The list goes on and on. Russia, Moscow, Pakistan, Islamabad is one of my, we filed tons of lawsuits against Islamabad. Casablanca. The list goes on and on and on. It doesn't matter which consulate is dragging its feet. We can help you regardless of the consulate. It could be Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Norway. It doesn't matter. Here's another question. Is the lawsuit 100% guaranteed to be successful? No, it's not. You could hire me and you could get denied. There's no guarantee that the consulate's going to approve your visa, and there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to get your visa approved within a fixed period of time. Now, most people who hire me do get approved, and most people who hire me get a decision within a reasonable period of time, within, I'd say, 2 to 6 months. And I think most people that hire me for these lawsuits are tremendously happy with the results. But nevertheless, if you want me to give you a 100% guarantee that you're going to win and that you're going to get approved within a certain period of time, then I cannot do that. I don't, the decision is not in my hand. If I had the power to issue visas, I would just give everyone a visa, and that's what we would do, but I can't guarantee it. What is the statistical likelihood of being approved if you hire me? That's a question I get all the time. Is it a 50-50 thing, or is it 70-30, or is it a, I don't really think that way. I evaluate your case, and if I think I can help, I will offer to take on your case and file the lawsuit. And each of the cases that I file, I believe deserves to be approved, and I fight hard to get my clients approved, but I don't really think I can calculate with any degree of accuracy a numerical likelihood of success. I do try to indicate to my clients whether I think they're going to be approved or not. And if I think so, I'll say, yeah, I think this will work. Or I'll say, your case is challenging, but we should try this. I also think something to keep in mind: if you don't file a lawsuit and you're in administrative processing and you have one of these visa delays, what are you going to do? The waiting just leads to more waiting. So I don't think that if you're looking for a guarantee, you have to ask yourself, what's the statistical likelihood of if you keep waiting? What happens after the visa is issued? Well, once the visa is issued, then you can travel into the United States. You have the permission to come in. A visa is like a key that unlocks the door of the United States. So after the visa is issued, I file a motion in court to dismiss the lawsuit, and those are routinely granted. What about the delays at USCIS or the NVC pre-interview? That's a great question. I'm glad I asked myself that. That's a question I get a lot. So the lawsuits that I file are successful at resolving any sort of delayed immigration case. And it's a popular option right now because almost everything seems to be delayed. So if you have a case that's stuck at the National Visa Center, for example, I can help you by filing a lawsuit. If you have a case where you file an application with USCIS and USCIS is not approving it, and months and months and months or years have gone by, then I want to hear from you because I can help. Can you help me with other aspects of my immigration case aside from the visa delay lawsuit? The answer is yes. We run a national immigration law practice, and we take on all sorts of immigration cases family-based cases, asylum, employment-based cases. We can do it all. But those types of issues fall outside of the lawsuit that we're talking about now. We certainly can help you with those. Will the lawsuit fix the delay if the consulate is closed because of the coronavirus? Will the lawsuit still work? Yes, 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 it will work. It will work. That's a question I get all the time. Why should I file the lawsuit if my consulate says it's closed? But that's nonsense. I get visas approved from consulates that claim to be closed all the time. So I don't pay any attention whatsoever to what the consulate says about its website. They can say they're closed, we still sue them and get the visas issued. Don't pay any attention to that language on the website. Is the lawsuit confidential? Not really. The lawsuit is filed in federal court. It's a matter of public record. Someone could Google your name and the lawsuit might come up. But in point of fact, it's not well known and it doesn't factor in well into the search results. But nevertheless, if you want it to be completely confidential so that no one could know that you ever filed a lawsuit, then you shouldn't do this. It's a public record, yes. Questions and answers. Let me see here. Let me see what I have for you. I'm going to see what questions. I'm going to answer this one. Atif Khan, how long does it take once we file the lawsuit? Normally, per the lawsuit, the defendants respond within 60 days. What if the 60 days are passed and there's no update? What should we expect from the lawyer once the writ of mandamus is filed? Okay, that's a great question. Some of my cases are approved before. So just by way of background, when you file a lawsuit, the consulate has 60 days to respond. What typically happens is they ask for an additional period of time to respond to the lawsuit. And in that period of time, they resolve the delay. And what my friend, Mr. Khan, is pointing out is that it can be very frustrating because they could keep asking for additional time to respond to the lawsuit, and then things could drag on indefinitely. So you could think, well, what's the point of even filing the lawsuit if they're just going to ask for additional delays? And I think at that point, what you should know is that the cases are typically resolved in 2 to 6 months. That it could take 6 months, it could take longer than 6 months, but the process works. I think what you should expect from the lawyer is a professional communication and follow-up. So I think that would be important. But I still think with a mandamus lawsuit, you're very likely to get your case approved in 6 months. Here's another question. This is from Nancy Bangura. Thank you so much for your question, Nancy. She says, my husband is in his home country and he has all his waivers, an I-212 and I-601 approved. And now the consulate is saying that there are visa sanctions, but his visa was scheduled back in February before the sanctions. What do we do now? Okay, so that's a great question. The answer is that you should strongly consider filing a lawsuit. A lot of times they'll say we can't issue the visa because of a proclamation, but I think the proclamations need to be challenged, and you can challenge the proclamation in a lawsuit. You can make several legal arguments. Number one, you can say that you deserve a decision and that the case has to be decided within a reasonable period of time. But you can also challenge the proclamation, and that's what we do in our other lawsuits. And I find it to be quite successful. Let's see here. I'm going to try to answer some other questions and see what I can do. Hang on one second. What questions do you have for me? Says here, so Nancy, I really think you should answer that. You should consider filing the lawsuit. One thing that I want to share with you Let me see if I can share this link with everyone. If anybody wants to chat with me about their case, I have something that I can share with you now. Let me just point this out. I'm going to put this in the chat right now. I will put this in the chat. Here is a link where you can schedule an appointment with me. Consulates are cruel. They are cruel. Here's a question from Ruth. If the consulates are closed now due to COVID, have you able to get any interviews granted? Yes, we get interviews get granted and we get cases approved. So that works. Don't be put off by the pandemic. You can still do this. Here's a question from Jamie. I applied for an I-751 petition to remove conditions on residence. It's been about 2 years already. I'm still waiting. How long does this process take? Why is it so delayed? Thank you for your question, Jamie. The I-751, so if you have a green card through marriage, typically they give you a green card for 2 years, and then you have to remove the conditions on residency, and that case gets delayed. I have a few ideas for that. First of all, Jaime, you might be eligible for naturalization. So that is one thing that you could do. And if you are, you could file the N-400 now. You could also file a lawsuit, a mandamus lawsuit to challenge the delay. And I'd be happy to chat with you about that case if you want to reach out to me. Here's a question from Brian Denny. This is a good one. What counts as an unreasonable delay given the 2020 shutdowns? Well, reasonable people can disagree about what a reasonable delay is, but I'll tell you the theory that I use, and this is what I use. If you are applying for an immigrant visa or a K-1 visa, if the visa petition has been pending for at least a year, I think that's an unreasonable delay. For example, if you file an I-130 or an I-129F, and you filed that 1 year ago, and they still haven't gotten the visa issued, then I think you can sue. If it's a non-immigrant visa, like an O1 or an F1 or a J1 or an H1B, I would say 4 or 5 months. If you haven't gotten a decision in 4 or 5 months, you should go ahead and file a lawsuit. Patricia asks, how much is your consultation? I offer a free consultation to anyone in this seminar. And again, the link I will put here. If you're interested in chatting with me about your case, I will chat with you for free. I do all my consultations either on the phone or through Zoom. These are great questions. Keep them coming. Nancy had a question. Please speak about the F4 category. This is from Rehana Praveen. Thank you so much for your question. So just to explain what that question's all about, Donald Trump, because of the coronavirus, issued a ban on a proclamation, actually, that banned the issuance of certain types of visas, including family-based preference petitions, the F4 category. So if you're applying for your parents or your adult children, or if you have a green card and you're applying for your wife and you're not a citizen, Trump claims that the proclamation bars the issuance of those visas. But this has been challenged successfully in other cases, and I think that you have to sue. At that point, you have to sue to challenge the proclamation. And in my lawsuits, I do just that. I challenge the proclamations, and that's what you should do because I think it works. It will work. And if you don't do that, if it's like Praveen, he has a family case that's been stuck for 2 years and it's suspended until December 31st. Donald Trump is going to extend the proclamation on December 31st. And if Trump gets reelected, the visas will never be issued. So I think Mr. Praveen is saying, or Rehana is saying, should you wait until January? I don't think you should do that. I think you should file the lawsuit now. We have Lalane Bailey says, hopefully he is voted out soon. Yes, definitely. My case was a K1 denial, not a delay. Just wanted to see what happens when delayed as well. If your case, I'm sorry. First of all, I'm sorry to hear that your case was denied. At that point, I would recommend that you try and get married outside the United States, file a new case based on an I-130, or refile the I-129F. And to get at your question, if you file the case and then it's delayed, then you can do a lawsuit. Glad everyone can hear me. What other questions do you have? There's some great questions. Here's one, Julia Yang. My mother has a green card. She's disabled and went to see a psychiatrist to sign a mental disorder. So it's easier for her to become a US citizen. It's almost been 2 years and she didn't become a citizen after meeting with the psychiatrist. What are your thoughts? First of all, I'm sorry to hear that your mother has a delayed case, but the answer for a delayed naturalization application is the same for any other kind of delayed case. I think you need to consider filing a lawsuit. Now, for naturalization, there's a special provision in the law that makes it even easier to sue. The law says that if your mother has had a naturalization interview, naturalization is the process by which a green card holder becomes a citizen. At that point, what happens is once you do the interview, the USCIS has 120 days to process and make a final decision on the application. So I think if your mother has had an interview, then you can sue based on that statute. And if your mother hasn't had an interview and it's just been delayed for 2 years, then I think you can just file a lawsuit based on an unreasonable delay. But either way, I think the fundamental point that you have to understand is that there are two courses of action with a delayed case, no matter what kind of case it is. The first one is to keep waiting. And the second one is to take action by filing a lawsuit. If you keep waiting, then that tends to lead to more waiting. And so I don't think that people try to wait it out, but then they get so frustrated and it continues for so long that it just becomes kind of pointless. So I don't recommend that you keep waiting. I recommend that you file the lawsuit. And that's really what I'm focused on. I'm just going to see if anyone has any other questions. Here's one from Patricia. Thank you for your question so much. My husband had his interview last year and was given 221G before Trump's travel ban. Will this be an issue after filing a lawsuit? No, it won't. I think that your husband deserves to be approved. He deserves a final decision on his application. And I think that you should file a lawsuit to challenge the delay. Regardless of the proclamation that Trump issues, we challenge the delays and we get them approved. And I think that's what you should do. Here's a question from Prabeen. He says, the embassy is closed and they're not scheduling interviews for SB1 visa and other visas. Is the lawsuit the only option to get the visa interview date? I sent them so many emails and they don't respond. Prabeen, I'm sorry that your visa's stuck. And for SB1, it's even more frustrating because you've probably been outside the US for a long time. SB1 is a visa that's given to green card holders that have been out for too long, that are trying to come back in. And these cases tend to get stuck, very often do get stuck. And Prabeen is trying to get his visa issued so he can come back, and they're saying that the embassy is closed, they're not scheduling interviews. And so what do? He emails them, he doesn't get any response. We would file a lawsuit. When we file the lawsuit, we force them to make a decision. They owe you a decision. You file the application and they have to do it. They can't just say, we're not going to do it. The only other option aside from filing the lawsuit is to keep waiting. And if you keep waiting, you're going to keep waiting and waiting and waiting, and you may never get a decision anytime soon. I've had people, I think the longest one I've worked on recently is somebody who waited for 6 years. This was in Afghanistan. Someone waited for 6 years. We filed the lawsuit. It took about 6 months to get issued. But this was a 6-year delay. Person went to the consulate in 2014. We filed the lawsuit in 2020, and it took a good 6 months, but we got the visa issued. That's the key, is not to get discouraged. Trust the process. Do what you can do. Here's a question from Sarah Silsmith. I'm in South Africa. My partner is waiting for his family-based visa. His parent is a US citizen. He went to his interview in February this year and he's told he had to find a co-sponsor because his dad's income was too low. His sister is in the US, a permanent resident, was able to co-sponsor. All the documents were sent to the consulate within 7 days after the interview. Okay. Follow-up was done by his immigration lawyer based in the US after no response from the consulate, and they only replied to say that it's still being reviewed. Then the coronavirus hit and the ban was implemented for green cards, and South Africa went into lockdown. What can we do? Well, Sarah, I'm sorry that your partner is stuck there. I think that I sound like a broken record because I'm repeating myself, but you really have two choices. The first is to keep waiting. And if you wanted to keep waiting, you wouldn't be on this webinar right now. The second option, and this is what I can help you with, is to file a lawsuit. Your husband can sue the consulate and he can say, I deserve a decision within a reasonable period of time. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and I followed up. I gave you all the documents you deserve. I want a decision. And if they say that there's a proclamation, you can challenge the proclamation and you can say that this isn't legal. Donald Trump just doesn't get to decide who gets a visa and who doesn't. We have laws in this country, and you can't use the pandemic to ban certain types of visas. You just can't. That's not fair. It's not legal, and we need to challenge it. It's very inconsistent too, because the President Trump has mocked the use of masks. He said that the economy needs to reopen, schools need to reopen, college football needs to be played, the NFL needs to go on. Everybody needs to not be afraid of the coronavirus. It's not a big deal. But at the same time, he's using it as an excuse to keep your partner outside the US. It doesn't make any sense at all. We need to challenge it. Here's a question from Searing Nanchung. Thank you so much for your question. I'm a US citizen and I've been trying to help my husband. Get a visa to come from Nepal since 2007. He went for an interview, but they keep asking for more documentation and taking longer. I filed a DS-160 and a waiver, but it's still delayed longer. Should I wait or file a lawsuit? Searing, what type of visa are you trying to get for this person? Can you tell me? What type of visa? I guess the question that I would ask, if you filed a waiver, my guess is that this is a K-1 visa. And if you filed, this is for a visa she wants her partner to come into the US so that they can get married and and apply for a green card, but it's been delayed. So she's saying, should I wait or file a lawsuit? I think you should file the lawsuit. That's what my inclination would be. And that's what I think you should do. Why don't you reach out to me and make an appointment so I can learn more details from your case, and I can tell you whether a mandamus lawsuit would be specific to you. So here's another question from Nanny Bevo. You meaning me, previously stated that you do not work with non-immigrant visitor visas. However, what options do you have for these waiting applicants? My application has been refused in Cairo for 11 months, and now I want to exhaust all resources possible before continuing to just wait longer. First of all, let me tell you why I don't work with people who are seeking visitor visas. First of all, I recognize that it's incredibly important for people to be able to visit the United States. And I don't mean to diminish the importance of that. But most visitor visa applications are denied. And your right to a visa as a visitor is pretty thin. And what I'm afraid of doing, I want my clients to have a good experience with me. If I file a mandamus lawsuit to challenge a delayed decision on a visitor visa application, I think the risk of denial is pretty high. And so I think that, I don't want to work on cases that are not likely to get approved. I like to work on cases that are likely to get approved. And so I think that that's a way for people to have a better experience with me as a lawyer. I don't know what you can do if it's been pending for 11 months. I don't really know what you can do. You can try to contact the consulate, try to wait it out. I'm really not sure. But my heart goes out to you. Back to Syrian, she says she's not sure, but she doesn't think it's a K-1 visa. I think you should make an appointment to chat with me, get some information from your immigration lawyer about what applications you filed. You said you filed for a waiver. It's kind of unclear to me what's going on, but I would love the ability to help you out. 2017 was a long time ago. Let's see what other questions we have. Here we have Govinder Sahal. This is to inform the consulate that you were found ineligible for a visa under 212F of the Immigration Nationality Act. The decision cannot be appealed. It's a tough message. Here's a question from Ruth, a follow-up question. My husband's in India right now. We are waiting on the consulate to schedule the interview for months. Would you recommend suing to get that interview? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would look, the first question that I would ask is, when did you file the application? Did you file the petition, the I-130 a year ago or more? If so, I would consider filing it. Let's see what other questions we have. Let's see. I'm going to try to find, I think I've answered all the questions. Again, proclamations are something that deserve to be challenged and can be challenged in federal court. Delays can be challenged at any stage in the immigration process. You have the right to a legal decision, a final decision within a reasonable period of time. And I think that's the basis for my work. All of the cases that I file are people who are frustrated, who don't want to wait anymore, and who are ready to push this because they don't think that they're getting a decision within a reasonable period of time. One more time, I want to put here for you. Let's see. I want to put here to everyone. Let's see here. I want to put a link. This is a link. If you see in the chat tool here, I put a link where you can make an appointment with me. You can schedule an appointment with me. There's no cost associated with this. If you have a delayed immigration case, a delayed visa, and you're interested in exploring whether a mandamus lawsuit would be a good course of action for you, then I suggest that you make an appointment to chat with me about it and see if I can help you out. I'd love to help you. I'll give you my candid opinion. If you have other questions, here is my email address. Actually, it's better if you're in Facebook and you message me in Facebook. That's an even easier way for me to reach you. I get a lot of emails and it's hard for me to respond to them all, but in Facebook, I tend to see them more. I want to encourage everyone to join the visa delay Facebook group. We have we have over 2,700 members in this group. That we talk about issues of visa delays and things like that. Let me just share the link where you can join that. It's free, of course. Here is the link for the Facebook group. I also have a YouTube channel, and every week I release videos where I answer questions about various immigration law topics related to visa delays, and I share my knowledge and insight into this. I try to inspire you to not get discouraged, and that's a link to that. I'm available if anybody has any other questions. I'll stay on for a few more minutes to see what I can do to help. Anyone have anything else? I hope this has been helpful and informative. If you have questions and after this is over, I want you to reach out to me if you're interested in exploring whether a lawsuit would be a good option for you. Then make an appointment with me through Zoom or by phone, and we can chat about the details of your case. But let me just see here. We have one person who raised their hand. I'll go to that person. Nancy. Let's see here. I cannot. Well, that's what I have to say on this topic. I hope it's been helpful. These lawsuits are incredibly effective. They're effective all the time. And I want you to know that. The lawsuits will work. They do work. I have gotten cases approved each week from consulates that claim to be closed. And I would love to help you and chat with you about it. Take care, everybody.